Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC podcast, brought to you by the REC Toycast. I am your host, Roman Chavez, and with me, as always,
Erik Icarus.
Kids, today we have a special guest, friend of the show, David Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we've been talking about want to do some fun shows in October. October being All Hallows Eve and whatnot. We're going to talk about tons of horror movies. And guys, I got to be honest with you, I'm not a horror movie buff. They don't really do much for me. Not to say I don't like a few, but I kind of want to talk about what I kind of consider, at least from our childhood, kind of like what I'm going to call the big six of the horror franchises. I kind of want to start in the 70s, where we kind of get our first slasher.
Yeah.
We talk about Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974. I have seen this movie, but I honestly remember that remake with Jessica Biel a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Because I definitely have not watched the 1974 one as an adult.
Right.
Is that something you guys like as horror fans? Is that a movie you guys...
I was a fan of it.
Okay.
The original, absolutely. They took inspiration from Ed Gein.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he was actually considered a serial killer. He's a grave robber.
Yeah.
So so he was making costumes and masks out of people's skin and stuff like that.
Sure,
so.
they're not using that skin. What's wrong with that?
Exactly. I mean, he's an artist.
Yeah, he's an artist,
man. But watching it for the first time, I was probably 9 or 10, and definitely
inappropriate.
But I could tell it was it's a movie.
Yeah,
I could see past it, and it really didn't resonate with me that much until I got older and figured out where they were pulling inspiration from. Then it made it a little more scary. So I don't know. It's not bad. It's all right.
I remember.
What it was,
I remember being weirded out by it because I definitely saw it too young as well.
Sure.
I had a cool uncle he showed me tons of movies that I had no business seeing before I was of age.
Before you were a man.
Before I was already a man. And this was one of them, and oh my gosh, it really creeped me out.
Yeah.
I just remember that very visceral. It might be the first time we see Leatherface in his glory, when I don't know if it's a door or a bookcase slides over, and just him like smashing that guy with a mallet. Yeah. And, just that sound. It was it was visceral.
Well, what I thought was creepiest about the movie wasn't necessarily Leatherface; it was his family.
Yeah,
that's what creeped me out. That dinner scene at the end was probably the creepiest part of that movie for me. Just that woman having to endure all that psychological torture, which apparently that actress was really just kind of screwed her up for reals.
Oh wow!
So and having used real animal blood and dismembered animals in the movie, definitely not PETA approved.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, I think the original one was certainly groundbreaking. You're right; it does kind of introduce the slasher villains in movies, and but I do gotta say, I think I like the remake a little bit better.
I did
too.
I did. The it still seemed to have that feel like. I don't know if I don't think it was it set in modern times, or was it still set in the 70s? Okay, yeah. So it definitely conveyed that to me. Like it really did.
Yeah. Right. And I think the part that really got to, and I don't get scared easily, but the part that really kind of did give me a jump scare was at the very end of the remake, where they had sort of this found footage of a police officer walking through the house, and presumably he thought that no one was there. He was just there collecting evidence and making a report. And at the end of it, he gets jumped by Leatherface, and you see the shot of Leatherface in black and white. Essentially killing this cop.
Wow, that was a good scene. Yeah. That was a good scene.
That was probably that I'll never forget that one from the remake, and I thought it was a really good way to end it.
For sure. You know what the best part of that movie was? Lee, help me out here. He was the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Right. Lee
Emery or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was so amazing. I mean, he's basically playing that same part he's just known for.
Yeah.
But he made that movie as the quote unquote sheriff.
Yeah. Yeah, he was good.
He was the best part of that, in my opinion.
just a great actor in general.
Yeah. And what other movie hasn't been ripped off more than Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah, I mean, you see that motif in several films.
Oh, for sure.
And obviously Rob Zombie can't do anything without biting off the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
His music is plagiarized, his films are plagiarized. The guy's a hack.
Oh my god. Things got real personal towards Rob Zombie.
Well, he just sucks.
Well, we jump ahead to kind of, I think, what a lot of people might then consider, especially in our age group, they really might consider this the kind of the start with Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
Jason. Jason Voorhees. I really like the first movie. I've seen actually a lot of them.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't seen them sequentially. Like I've seen like 1, 3, maybe Jason X. But the ones, and even though Jason X is ridiculous, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's cool.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
But Jason is such an interesting character. A deformed, mentally handicapped kid, kind of teased and then drowned in Camp Crystal Lake, correct?
Well, so the history.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
history.
Dave knows.
So right, so for everyone there, everyone should be familiar with Friday the 13th. That's what the series was originally billed as, and Friday the 13th 1, the killer's actually his mom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pamela.
Spoilers, kids. Spoilers.
Pamela Voorhees, right? And so she, she's upset because the camp counselors let her child, Jason, drown in the lake. And so she wants to take her revenge. And that's what she does. She goes around killing people.
So is she killing then, are the victims in the first one, are they the old camp counselors? Or are they the old camp counselors and then whoever?
There's just
teenagers off doing teenager
right.
things.
Yeah. Teenager diddles.
So anyway, the film ends with Pamela dying. I think her head gets chopped off by the main heroine. I can't remember her name for some reason. It's been a long time.
Screaming Girl number 3.
But it comes. So part 2 takes place immediately after part 1, and that's where Jason, you find out, didn't actually die. He grew up. And
well, if let me stop you there. If I remember correctly, isn't somebody out on the lake at the end of 1, and then you see
right? So
Voorhees come out of the water.
In part 1, you didn't know what that really was because she didn't actually die in part 1 like that. That was kind of billed as like sort of a hallucination.
Oh,
so to speak.
okay.
Because in part 2, because it takes place immediately after part 2. Jason's not a kid, and in that scene, it's a child trying to drag her down. But in part 2, he's grown up.
I feel like all of these movies are like retcons as they go. Like,
pretty much.
This would be cool.
It's
Jason especially,
and this is like notorious in horror films, especially this one where. You'll get a writer who'll do a decent job, and then the next set of writers will try to change something up, and it's very horrible with consistency. But in part 2, that's where we see grown-up Jason, and he's not anything particularly special. He's just a strong dude who is still loyal to his mom and is going to seek revenge. And he doesn't have his hockey mask in this one. This is the sack.
Oh, that's
the
right.
video sack.
Oh, that's right.
And so,
is this the only one where he has the sack?
Yeah, this is the sack one, because in part 3 he gets his hockey mask.
I was going to ask, when does he get the hockey mask?
So it's part 3, right? And this whole thing, you think he dies, but he doesn't die, and it gets crazy. So there, and I don't exactly remember where it stops, because there's actually one point where they actually do kill Jason. Actually, I do remember. It's when they introduce Corey Feldman's character, Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis is this kid when Corey Feldman's like a preteen. There's a lot going on in that movie, but essentially Tommy kills Jason. He actually does kill him. And then the next film, Jason, A New Beginning, it's this copycat killer. And
it's not Jason Voorhees.
It's not Jason Voorhees. And it's the craziest freaking story I've ever heard, right? So, and I'll explain this one because it's really bad. Yeah. How this even comes about. Because it comes out of nowhere. In this film, there's this sort of rehabilitation center for people and it's out near Camp Crystal Lake, right? And they bring in these crazy dudes who are addicted to whatever, who just need help, and they're there just to get better centered with themselves. And so the reason the copycat killer comes about is because of this rehabilitation center. And guess what? Tommy Jarvis is in this one, so he's at that center. But the reason the copycat killer comes about is because there's this fat dude who's talking to this other dude who's crazy he's chopping wood. Yeah. And this fat guy's eating candy. And he's like just talking to him, and this crazy dude chopping wood is like, "Leave me alone," and like kills him. just straight up kills this guy, right? And so these paramedics come, and during the whole thing, they're like, well, does this guy have any family? Well, the counselor is like, well, no, not that we know of. But it turns out at the end of the film...
It was one of the paramedics, right?
It was one of the paramedics.
I remember. Okay, I watched this
It
one.
was so crazy.
Yeah.
That's the craziest thing. So he decides to take on the persona of Jason and just start killing, everyone. And that's not Jason. It's this weird paramedic guy who lost his kid, estranged kid, for some reason. And I don't even know how you can even write that kind of coincidence.
Yeah.
Now, the Jason that we all know and love, I think, that everyone knows and loves, is sort of the supernatural, zombified Jason that I think we want to really get to. That's the next film. They bring a new actor in for Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis is so traumatized that he has to actually see the dead body of Jason to be comforted. So him and a friend dig the grave. They see him, and Tommy's just going nuts and stabs him with an iron rod from the graveyard. Well, there's a lightning storm going on. Lightning strikes the rod, reanimates Jason into the monster killer machine that I think that mostly everyone is familiar with, is the guy who can't die now. He's just this zombified, strong, supernatural type killer, and then that Jason is the one that continues on to this day.
Okay. And so Jason's just kind of more or less unkillable, indestructible at a lot of times. Like, it seems like he takes a ton of damage. Machete,
but he's also creative, right?
Yeah.
So this is one of the things. This is one of the things that is, I think, one of the best parts of his character is he'll find a way to kill you if he doesn't have a machete.
Yeah.
And it'll be creative.
Yeah.
Like
he's got his Rube Goldberg designs.
It's not just a machete. Like he will find it. So one of the famous scenes that you definitely saw it in Jason X, but it actually happened in one of the prior films. Is he'll get one of these kids and put him in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And just and pick them up and hit them on a tree and just kill them through blunt force trauma like that, right? So it's not just a machete, that even though that's his signature weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's his move, you know?
Right.
Okay.
I think my favorite Jason memory is the Takes Manhattan one.
Oh,
I don't remember
my
which part it is,
It's like
but
6 or 7?
Yeah, one of those
which
crazy ones.
they're on a boat, and I think they actually have maybe 10 minutes of actually them being in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically them just on a boat with Jason.
Jason sails by Manhattan.
Yeah, it takes Carnival Cruise, basically.
gosh.
But then there's a scene where he boxes this black guy on a roof.
He boxes him?
Yeah.
Right, so it's actually that's one of the better parts of that movie. Right, so it's this teenager, right, and he's like an amateur boxer, and
Yeah, of course.
and he doesn't want to run from Jason anymore, and so they're on a rooftop in Manhattan towards the end of the film. And this guy's like, he's gonna make his last stand, and he's like punching and fighting Jason. He's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But Jason, of course, is
Is
like,
an unkillable,
right. You can't do anything.
simple
about
Jack zombie.
it. Right. So this guy is gassed right at the end of his moves, and he can't like fight anymore because he's tired. Because
Yeah.
Jason is like,
He
didn't
plan his punches,
He's
yeah.
the Mike Tyson or Drederick Tatum.
There you go. There you go.
Right. So he's gassed, right, and so Jason just like uppercuts him, and his head pops off, and the guy dies. And I thought that was one of the.
It was like it's great because it's the most vivid Jason memory I have.
Yeah.
Is just him boxing on a rooftop.
Well, so we're starting to see a little bit of supernatural qualities added to these characters being unkillable. So then, kind of our next person is Freddy Krueger. Or Frederick Krueger, as he might be known. I really don't know.
Yeah.
We have Freddy Krueger show up in Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984.
Yeah.
And while I think Jason is one of my favorite characters, but now I realized I may not even know Jason because I've just seen a bunch of Pretenders. But Freddy Krueger is one of the scarier ones.
Sure.
Visually, power-wise, he's kind of this dream demon that, attacks you in your dreams.
Yeah.
And if you die in your dreams, you die in real life.
Right.
Eric, I know you have a lot of Freddy Krueger knowledge. Give us a backstory on the.
Well, I mean,
Freddy.
obviously, Wes Craven's baby. It takes place. It takes place on Elm Street, obviously. From what I understand, I don't know, Dave knows the mythology a little bit too, because in the first movie, did we find out about his mom in that one?
No, we don't. And one of the things about part one is that he's actually different from the other films. As the films go on, he kind of becomes more jovial and
he's cracking one-liners left and right.
I mean, he's a little like he does a little bit of that in part one, but in part one they really do it differently. And Wes Craven brings a mysterious element to him because you're seeing shots of him in the dark.
Uh-huh.
You're kind of seeing parts of his burned skin, but you really don't know what he's all about. And he's not joking around. He's just being sinister.
Why is his skin burned?
Well, because he was I
can't janitor or
no, I can't remember the town, but he was known as
Springwood.
Springwood, yeah, he's known as a Springwood
slasher,
and he killed children. And you find out why he does that in subsequent films, but he got burned because he was arrested and they were going to put him on trial, but he got off on a technicality. So the townspeople decided to take justice in their own
street
hands.
justice,
and they burned him alive.
Oh.
And that's why he's burned.
Child killers. I get it.
But the thing is, like in the movie, they actually don't allude that he did it. Like, it was sort of, like, left up to you to think if he did it or not.
And I've always had an issue with that, because I watched the Jackie Earle Haley one, and I was very excited about that in 2011, I think. And it was just okay, but they really made you believe that maybe he didn't hurt those kids. And
you didn't like that aspect, or you did?
I like that aspect.
Me too.
Because that would make sense, then he would be a vengeance demon.
Exactly, yeah.
But if he is a killer of children, and then he gets superpowers, that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's not cool at all.
I mean, no one's going to give Michael Jackson's ghosts superpowers. I mean, he didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
but he can dance, man. He might as well have been under a spell, all right?
So you find out a little bit more about his history in subsequent films, and that his mom was a nun, and that she worked at this insane asylum. And one night she got locked in with the inmates, and about 100 of them in this room, and they rape her.
Oh, shit!
She almost died, but instead of dying, she actually conceived Freddie in that way. And then Freddie had his own stepfather who was abusive and wasn't good to him either, so that contributed to it. And he was also this disturbed kid. He even killed a hamster in his classroom, and like
when you're killing animals, you're gonna kill people at some point.
Well, he developed into this killer of children, and you come to find out he was targeting the children of his classmates who made fun of him. For being conceived, I didn't know that. Being conceived by crazy inmates, and of course for killing animals and what have you. And that's sort of the catalyst of what happens. Well, he gets his powers, and you find this out, and Freddy's dead. So it was supposed to be the last one, but it wasn't. But you find out that there are these dream demons, and they are searching for the most evil person in all the world. That they can bestow their powers on to basically make nightmares into reality.
Be their like avatar kind of.
Right. Yeah. And so as he's getting burned alive by the townsfolk, these demons finally reveal themselves to him and basically make this offer like, hey, we'll go ahead and empower you if you
carry out our wishes.
Essentially, make nightmares reality. And so, of course, it was either that or death, and he was already a crazy serial killer. He of course said yes, and that's the reason, so to speak. That's the lore. But it actually changes when they bring back Wes Craven for a New Nightmare.
Which is brilliant, underrated movie.
New Nightmare, really?
Oh god, it's so
New
great.
Nightmare.
It's amazing.
New Nightmare. They kind of go a similar. Line with it. He's an ancient demon, but it's not these dream demons coming after him. But in this one, Wes Craven gives him a different sort of origin story where he's his own separate demon, and he wants to again make nightmares into reality, but he wasn't connected to any sort of separate demons that are trying to empower him.
That's like what's cool about that is it brings the meta element into film. That was the first time I ever saw that.
Yeah, because isn't that the one where it is Wes Craven in the movie? It is
it's
Nev
Robert
Campbell.
England.
Yeah,
not Nev Campbell, but
I thought Nev Campbell was the character.
No. I can't remember.
I think it was the same actress from.
Yeah, it was all the same actors and actresses from the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and they all start having weird dreams about Freddy, and stuff starts to happen, and it's really amazing. They couldn't get Johnny Depp though. I wish they were able to get Johnny Depp for it, but I guess he was had some obligations.
He had Johnny Depp stuff to do. You know?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it was just really good how Wes Craven was able to turn that, and that was the first movie I kind of saw as like quote unquote meta stuff. Like they're winking at the camera like, hey, this Freddy's real. You know,
we got you.
Yeah. So I thought brilliant. I didn't, again, going back to the reboot, didn't care for it.
I thought the trailer was excellent, and then the movie was just kind of
even his makeup wasn't very good.
But Jack Earl Haley, I thought like his voice and everything kind of worked really well. But it would have been better if he hadn't done anything and they killed him, and then he was like a vengeance.
Sure,
that would be an interesting, because then they deserve to be screwed with a bit.
For sure.
You know?
But the other people's complaint was that he wasn't cracking wise in that one.
Well, I think the problem is when you follow, I think it's Robert Englund. Englund. Yeah, when you follow him, it's going to be hard.
Oh, big time.
It's not like Jason where you just put a mask on and it's a silent killer. There's a distinct personality that's been involved throughout the series of the film, and everyone who likes Freddy wants him to continue being Freddy. They don't want anyone else in there as good as if they could find anyone else, great, but you can't follow that. It's just hard to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think visually, again, he's probably the most terrifying.
Sure.
And for those of you listening who are huge horror buffs, and I hope there's a few of you, I just realized that I went over a glaring mistake. And I skipped over literally number 2, which is Michael Myers in 1978.
Sure.
So, because my notes are terrible, handwriting's bad, but I definitely want to talk about
Halloween
Myers in the Halloween films.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there we kind of see that, when I said the progression earlier, I was like, man, there was another one in there, because it kind of goes Leatherface, then Michael Myers, and that one he's a little bit more juiced, and then Jason Voorhees is more juiced. Freddy Krueger is a night demon, or a dream demon. So we kind of see that more. But I definitely want to talk about Michael Myers.
It's almost, Michael Myers to me was sort of Jason Light.
Okay.
In my opinion. I didn't really care for the first Halloween, be honest with you. I know that's sacrilege, but and it's funny because real quick, the Halloween series was supposed to be an anthology series.
Yes.
Because the second Halloween was about witches or something.
No,
like
it's
that.
the third one.
Is it the third one? Okay.
So Michael Myers is in the first 2.
Right. Okay.
And then Season of the Witch,
which is great. It's actually really good.
Is it good?
It's really good.
Okay.
And people don't give it. They need to give it a shot because it's really good. But
it has nothing to do with Michael Myers,
no,
right?
Completely nothing. Yeah. Nothing at all. I don't know. I had seen Jason before I saw Michael Myers.
Oh, okay.
So I was under the impression that, oh wow, this is kind of the same thing, just not as grandiose, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just it felt like a straight on just a psychopath just killing people with no supernatural element.
abilities.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right. So and I agree. I saw Friday the 13th before I saw Halloween, so I definitely agree that I'm more partial to Jason.
Yeah.
But Halloween again, that's a part of the beginning. It was sort of the precursor to what we all know and enjoy today. And just again, I think Eric said it best. It's not as grandiose, so to speak. There's not. I think Michael Myers only kills about 3 people.
Yeah.
In Halloween. Compare that to Jason, who kills like 20
racking
people
up that body count.
So that was more of I think it was supposed to be more of a psychological slasher type thing, right? Where, they all are, but that more so because, again, the body count was low. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that much gore. Yeah. It was just, this crazy guy.
It was the anticipation they were trying to sell to the death, or, maybe the person gets away or whatever, but I don't know. I don't have a lot to say on it because I wasn't really that big of a fan of it, honestly.
This one feels like the first kind of horror film that really takes that rewriting of the history right away, because what is a common thread amongst all of these horror films, and we still have one other genre or another series to get to, but is that they come out really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Halloween and then Halloween 2, I think, come out like a year apart. Like something like that. 18 months,
Yeah,
like
that was their plan, was to do it
it's just
every
boom,
year.
boom,
Yeah.
boom. And, same thing with the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets. They're really close together.
For sure.
Because there's low effects.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that stuff. But this one, okay, I know that it's super convoluted. Jamie Lee Curtis in the first movie is not his sister, but then it's retconned in 2 that Michael was her brother, and he's obsessed with killing his family. Something like that.
Yeah,
is my understanding.
yeah, that's what I got from it.
And it was. You could take a whole podcast and talk about how crazy the Halloween series is. The best thing they did was reboot it now, and I will say Rob Zombie does suck with respect to his remakes.
They're bad. They're boring.
Yeah, they're
super boring.
They're just straight up hot garbage.
Yeah.
Now Danny McBride, that guy knows how to reboot something.
Yeah.
And he did, and I'm glad to see that they were able to get Jamie Lee Curtis back and do something different. So basically, what they do is they say ignore everything.
Yeah, this didn't happen.
Part one happens, and then ignore everything else. This is
the sequel,
right?
Okay.
And
I did not watch it. I did not watch the new one.
It was good.
I watched both of Rob Zombie's for some stupid reason, and then after that, I was like, God, I just can't watch these. I think it's hilarious, and most people will know, but if you don't, Michael Myers' mask is a Captain Kirk mask that like sun faded or more or less, or just
Pretty
like
much,
naturally just kind of broke down.
Yeah.
So that is a Captain Kirk
Halloween mask,
which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's creepy.
Yep.
It's creepy looking.
Oh, yeah.
The dead eyes, the expressionless face.
So it looks like him now, basically.
Yeah.
It's like William Shatner now.
Shatman.
The
Shatman. So this one is lower for you guys on the horror.
Well, I mean, there's always something to appreciate.
Sure.
About it. I mean, and this. The character himself, he actually killed when he was a kid.
That's
Yeah.
it.
So that's an interesting take on it. So he kills when he's a kid, and then it jumps forward to when he's an adult.
Yeah.
And he wants to get back to the place where it all happened, right? And then enter in Jamie Lee Curtis and all these other folks. So it's just an interesting character, and as it develops through the good films, you find out. Well, you don't find out, but the doctor, the psychologist who's evaluating him and supervising him basically says that he's just pure evil.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think that's important about Mike Myers, is that he's just evil.
Yeah.
And that's his explanation, right? About where his powers and abilities come from. He's just pure evil. He's a killing machine. He's akin to Jaws, right? Jaws is just a killing machine. And that's the same with Mike Myers, Michael Myers. Sorry to Mike Myers.
Yeah, it's his fault. Could you imagine like a supernatural serial killing Mike Myers, like, and he keeps like changing to his different characters? Like, that's a scary movie I want to see. I think the most ridiculous of these kind of six. This like Mount Rushmore of horrors is Charles Lee Ray, better known as Chucky, the good guy doll. This one I again saw too young. Yeah. And it terrified me to my very core, the very first one. This thought of this serial killer that he's actually like dying in the toy store, right?
Yeah.
And then he like transfers his soul
into the doll.
To a doll.
Yeah.
And then starts killing again.
Yeah.
And I mean, even to this day, I think that puppet looks terrifying.
Yeah, they did a good job.
It does. It's so good. And I can't remember the actor's name, but his voice for Chucky.
I think it's Brad Dorff.
Dorff, yeah, that's right. It's something like that. And oh man, so creepy.
Yeah,
so creepy.
You can tell he's doing his best Jack Nicholson impression.
Oh,
and it's
my
perfect.
Gosh.
And
You're
it's
absolutely
great.
right. It's Jack Nicholson and the doll. I never thought about that. But this one is probably the most silly.
Sure.
The first one's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
I don't remember the second one. I remember liking the third one, but you guys say the third one's garbage. So
it's got its charms. I just find it doesn't have the scares. It's almost a comedy.
These are all fun.
Yes.
A lot of them are garbage.
Yes.
But they're all fun.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how I'd characterize it.
I think Chucky suffers from Freddy syndrome, where he in the first movie he's really menacing and creepy.
Yeah.
Then he starts making with the yucks as the films go on. Then he turns into a comedian that just kills people, basically. So.
As fans of the genre, do you prefer that kind of silliness, or do you wish that they would stick more to just being like dark and scary?
I think for me it depends on, I guess, my mood.
Oh, okay.
I mean, dark comedies are funny.
Sure.
They just are. And you do have cool characters. Like everyone we've talked about here are cool. It just depends on how how you'd rank them, right? I would agree with Michael Myers. He's probably the lowest level.
Okay.
That I would rank
it's
it
because he has no personality.
Right.
I think I'm starting to see this.
And it was, if you compare that to Jason, he does have personality, and that personality comes out in how he kills people.
Yeah.
He's creative. Whereas Michael Myers is like stabbing people.
Just stabs you.
Just like Shatner, no personality. Gotcha.
See?
Just kidding, Will. I like you. I know Dave does. Seems like Eric might not. The Shat Man.
But I don't know. I find the humor almost it works for Chucky.
Yeah.
I think it works in his favor just because of the over the top voice.
Yeah.
It's a doll.
Yeah.
And I think the writers saw we can maybe only get one legit creepy movie out of this. Let's just give him some jokes. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the second one is funny. His first kill is with a yo-yo. He strangles a guy with a yo-yo. No, it's a plastic bag. Sorry, he puts a plastic bag over someone's face.
I think what frustrates me about the about the Child's Play thing, and it's not necessarily the movie. Let me say that the movie series does have its problems. No question.
Yeah, it does.
But when people think about it, who really aren't into horror, they're like, "Oh, it's just a doll, right?" Well, they don't realize that he still sort of has the strength of a grown man. One. Number two, we're viewing it as the audience, so we already know that this thing is menacing. But if you were in the movie, you would not believe that a plastic doll was possessed and going around killing people.
Sure.
You wouldn't believe Andy. I mean, yes, if that were to happen, a doll could sneak up on you because that's unheard of.
Sure.
And he could kill you.
I wonder if that's why Andy in Toy Story is named Andy. I'm curious, if that's why, they're just taking giving a little homage to another living toy series,
Sure.
And guys, I'm not gonna lie, and that's one of the things I like about the show. I made yet another mistake because we glanced over Eric's.
Oh yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I thought you were doing that for a reason.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna claim that as a reason.
Say for the best for last. I'll go with that.
We'll go best for last for you, and arguably the most powerful in the Hellraiser series. We have Pinhead.
Yeah.
Now, I've only seen the first one. I haven't seen anything else from Hellraiser.
Okay.
And I feel like there is there's no fuss, no muss, no jokes, no nothing. This is just a killer, interdimensional demon storyline.
Yes and no. He's not. This movie, The Hellraiser, is based on a book called The Hellbound Heart by Clive
Barker.
Yeah. Yes, and who directed the first one subsequently. And it starts out with this puzzle box, and there's a guy who buys it. His name's Frank. And I don't want to go through the whole story, but this puzzle box basically opens up a dimension to this. They don't really call it hell, but it's a hell dimension. And Hellraiser says, and he says, we are angels to some, demons to others. His dimension exists where pleasure meets pain. So that's why they sort of they tickle you, but then they hook you.
Get you.
Yeah, and and he's accompanied by his Cenobites, which I think are really well designed.
Chatter,
Butterball, and then the female Cenobite.
Okay. Does she not have a name?
Not in the first movie.
Okay.
I can't remember her name.
Okay.
But yeah, very great movie. Just it's alluding to fetishes. It's got the leather fetish thing going. Arguably doesn't have a huge body count, but it is gory.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where they skin Christy's the protagonist.
Okay.
I mean, they skin her dad, basically. Uncle Frank puts his skin on his face to try to coax his niece into having relations with him.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, but yeah, it's love it. Visually, it's striking. When it's scary. For this movie, it took the concept of daylight and made it not safe for me, because a lot of the murders happen in broad daylight. Because Uncle Frank is trying to get his body back to normal, so he enlists the help of his old lover, who is married to the dad, Chrissy's dad, and she brings men over, and she murders them in the room so Frank can absorb their blood.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and it's got some of the best practical effects in any of these old horror movies. Still hold up, honestly. Some of them don't. Some of the puppets are awful and laughable.
I watched Hellraiser Hellraiser in the last 5 years, and I found it boring, but visually
Yeah.
just visually interesting.
Right. Yeah. The second one's where it just goes, though.
Oh, really?
Second one is
I haven't
the
watched
best.
anything
Out of
after
the-
one.
Yeah.
Are you a Hellraiser fan? I've never really heard you talk about this series.
No, I've definitely watched it. I always thought it was the grossest.
It
of
is
the,
gross,
of the horror flicks that I see. But again, I think it's all about tastes, right? In horror films, it's not that I hate it. It's just I prefer other things.
Yeah, for sure.
But I certainly respect what it was trying to do, and I think everything Eric said was absolutely right. I mean, when you can, because typically in horror flicks, the nighttime, that's where all the action's going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you can introduce new concepts like killing in the day and what have you, just to make everyone uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because think about it, most horror flicks,
Yeah.
when there's a scene during the day, you're thinking to yourself,
it's
nothing's
safe.
going to happen.
Yeah.
So I can relax here.
Ah.
In this kind of film, there's no relaxing.
No.
And when you see gross stuff on the screen, I'm definitely not relaxed. So, no, it certainly has its place among the other great horror flicks.
Oh, for sure. And this one does suffer from the other ones with too many sequels.
Yeah.
That honestly I stopped watching after the fourth one. And I think it has like 10 sequels.
Oh,
like
yeah.
legit. And the second one is the best in the series.
Yeah.
And
wow.
the third one is the third one.
Yeah.
And it's okay. But yeah, I have nothing but great things to say about it just because of the practical effects. Aesthetically, it's amazing. Yeah, it's great.
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very interested to then see the second one because, like I said, I watched the first one. It didn't really do anything for me, but yeah, it was very visual. There was a weird sex scene that I remember, but
the second one, you actually go into the puzzle box.
Oh.
You go into the hell dimension, and then
Okay.
you find out they worship a god called Leviathan.
Okay.
That's what gives them their powers, basically.
Okay.
So they were all sort of searching for pleasure and pain in our life, in their old life.
So
when
were they
died-
people at first then?
Yes, they were. All the Cenobites were. Pinhead was an army officer at one point, or a police officer rather at one point.
And in their real life, were they?
They were into like fetishes, and
Okay.
so they summoned these demons to bring out those fetishes. And
Ah.
so they absorbed their soul into the puzzle box. So they served
Interesting.
Leviathan, basically.
Okay.
And yeah, the second one just ups the gross factor, ups the it is bizarro, and it's amazing. Yeah, I love this. I love the second one.
Is Pinhead, because Pinhead's not in it that much in the in
No,
Hellraiser.
he's got maybe 5
Right.
minutes of
Right.
screen time.
And he's
he's-
the most interesting character.
Yeah.
No, big time. Yeah.
So
yeah.
is he in them more?
Oh, big time.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
big time.
All
for
right.
sure. In the second one, he probably gets about 20 minutes of screen time. But again, you're going through this labyrinth of hell, and it's terrifying.
Huh.
But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I did have good things to say about this.
We've
movie.
had a couple films where we've had some of these characters face off against each other. And a question that I have for you guys,
Yes.
and for the listeners, I know that there's tons and tons of different horror bad guys and this and that, but these were kind of the 6 that I narrowed down that kind of stuck with me as a person who doesn't like the genre.
Well, they all set the template.
Yes,
For modern day
it's
horror,
so
basically.
weird how many templates there can be, and you see how they feed into each other as well.
Oh yeah.
Just in progression, just starting off with a man in Leatherface, and then Michael Myers, who then it becomes somewhat unkillable, and then Jason Voorhees, who is even more unkillable. It's just this weird progression. And to you guys, horror movie beatdown.
Yeah.
Like what is nothing silly,
Sure.
none of this Freddy versus Jason hogwash. Who do you guys think is can actually win a fight in this showdown of these 6 people?
Well, I mean, I understand what you mean by the Freddy versus Jason hogwash. I actually think they did a pretty
The movie was fun.
right. They
yeah.
probably did the best they could given the rules that were set in place before.
Oh yeah, because
before they
both
got together, right?
franchises were like, okay, he can't do this. Da 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 da.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, it depends on what the arena is, right?
Okay.
And they kind of showed that in Freddy versus Jason, right? They allowed a fight to happen. That was, I think, the best thing about Freddy versus Jason is they didn't just have one massive fight at the end.
Right.
They had more than just one fight with
Yeah,
these two.
which I like.
One in the dream world, one in the real world.
I love that scene where they have Jason in the van and he's like coughing up water.
Yeah.
Because Freddy's fighting him and
Right.
like trying to drown him, right? Because
Yeah.
he's afraid of water.
Now, what's interesting about it, though, and I think this is partly done because they don't want to piss off any of the fans, right? They just want to make it a tie. But what's interesting about Jason in the dream world is that he's able to hold his own. Any
Yes.
normal human being
Yeah.
in that scenario is straight up gonna die.
Oh yeah.
And if you see the fight in the dream world, like Freddy, any normal person would have been done like the first blow.
Oh yeah.
But he keeps getting up, so Jason retains whatever powers he has in the dream world.
Yeah.
Now flip it to the end where Freddy's fighting in the real world. Freddy's holding his own.
Yeah.
So when Jason's like beating him up and like throwing him into buildings and stabbing him,
Uh-huh.
any normal human being is dead.
Yeah.
But Freddy is holding his own, and he's also like a ninja too.
Yeah.
He's like
Yeah.
jumping around. He's agile. He's like
I remember that.
he's just moving quick and making these good strikes, and Jason keeps missing him with his heavy blows and his machete strikes. So what I liked about that was that they were able to be faithful, I think, to the character's abilities and powers, and also kind of lay out that, hey, these guys can hold their own even when they're at a disadvantage depending on the scenario.
Yeah.
Sure.
So if you put a gun to my head and said who can win in a fight, I'm probably gonna say Jason because I like him a lot. Not to say I don't like Freddy. It's just that I guess that's my guy. Like, Jason Voorhees is probably one of the more. For me, he seems simple, but he's not.
Yeah, he's got
I mean,
more
he's
going
got a
there.
very he's a complex character in a lot of ways.
Complex cat, babe.
And I'll tell you right now, Jason doesn't kill children.
Yeah.
And I know this because there was a movie, and I can't remember, it was the third one or maybe, I think it was the third one, where there's actually children at Camp Crystal Lake, and he encounters the children, and he doesn't kill them.
That's right.
He kills the teenagers and the adults, but the
Yeah.
little kids he leaves alone. Whereas, of course, Freddy is a horrible, horrible person for torturing and mangling children.
Jason that's like catch and release. He's like measuring them. He's like,
Nah,
throw you back.
maybe next time.
yeah. You win this round.
I would say, honestly, I'm going with my guy. I'm going to go with Pinhead because, I mean, the guy serves Satan for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And I think he would just pick him off.
Is he stronger or weaker based on his proximity to the hell dimension or box?
No.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, he has to be let out through the box. Like, you have to open the box for him to come out. Once you do, though...
Can you recall him easily? Okay, so if the box is open, I'm trying to stop him, I get the box, can I just bring him back in?
You have to solve
You
the
have to solve
box
the puzzle.
again.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And so what I see happening, I mean, obviously, I think he would just start picking them off. He would probably, I mean, Freddy would probably be the hardest one for him.
Yeah.
Because he's ethereal, too.
Yeah.
You know? He doesn't necessarily exist in our world, really. You
Okay.
know? But I think as far as Michael Myers, I think there's nothing there for them.
Him
They
and
would
Chucky
probably
kind of get killed
pretty
quick.
much.
Yeah.
They'd probably be like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And then Jason, Dave brings up a good point because he was holding his own in the dream world too. So if he goes to the hell dimension, I really think that they would probably try to make him like the ultimate Cenobite.
Cenobite?
Yeah.
That's
I don't
interesting.
see, because they couldn't kill him.
So
And he
okay,
feels
now-
no pain or pleasure.
Now-
He gets none of those.
that
So they
would
would
be
be
an
like,
interesting
well,
crossover.
yeah, they'd be like, we can't hurt him.
Now, if we're saying the fight is involving Pinhead, I'm going to have to agree that yes, Pinhead is probably the most powerful out of everyone that we've discussed here. But I want to kind of bring it back to a little bit of the background of Freddy versus Jason in conjunction with Pinhead.
Oh, yeah.
Now this all started when it was the last one before Jason X.
Goes to hell, right?
Jason goes to hell, right? And then at the end of the scene, you see the Freddy claw glove bring down the mask, indicating that there would be a crossover.
Yeah.
And that crossover was going to involve hell. Fast forward 10 years later to Freddy versus Jason, and the whole reason for Freddy versus Jason was that Freddy they forgot all about Freddy, and Freddy can't kill anyone.
They forgot about Dre.
since no one remembered him, there was no fear for him to draw off of on and subsequently kill everyone. So he found Jason in hell and sent him on a killing spree to remind everyone, to essentially take credit for those kills and remind everyone of Freddy Krueger. Right? Well, why that's important is because it this sort of introduces the concept that these characters are connected to hell itself, connected to, Satan or whoever's, powering the hell dimension, if you will. And in the end of it, there was an alternate ending that they never shot, and they couldn't shoot it because I think movie rights were getting in the way. They were actually going to introduce Pinhead.
Oh,
yeah. And there was going to be a scene in hell where Jason and Freddy are locked in this internal fight.
Yes.
And Pinhead was going to come in and say, "Hey, what's the problem here?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's literally what it was, something like that. He was going to say that. So that tells me that these Jason and Freddy also get their power from hell,
a similar place,
or similar place. So the question is, could Pinhead really kill Freddy or really kill Jason?
Oh, that's
Probably not.
interesting.
See, that's the thing. You can kill them.
That's interesting, because I like kind of the mix and match here, because you have Michael Myers, the Leatherface, and kind of Jason. Like that would be the fight. And Jason would most likely win that royale pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then Jason, since he's a little bit more mystical, then fits into the Freddy, the Pinhead, and even Chucky. Voodoo and all that stuff. Yeah. Obviously, Chucky is the low man on the totem pole there, but is he? I don't know. Can he possess somebody else? Can he do anything like that?
He said numerous times he could put his...
he tries to.
Yeah, he tries to put it into... But I think he wants a child so he can grow up again. Yeah.
It's like I'm really into puberty.
But he has to. He has trouble possessing this child for how many movies?
That's true.
I mean, there's no way he's gonna try and possess one of these other guys.
I wonder if Jason is able to hold his own in the dream world too, because he's also the stuff of nightmares. So he's not as weakened by the fact that
makes
because
sense,
he's a nightmare for other people. That would be an interesting, take on that.
Sure.
Well, it's a mystery, and even Freddy was frustrated.
Yeah, he's like, why won't you die?
Exactly. Yeah. All the time with Freddy, he's like, why can't I kill this guy? I think it's because ultimately their powers come from the same place.
That's it. I like that theory. I like that theory a lot. And was it Robert Englund in Freddy vs. Jason?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ooh. Definitely him.
Yep.
Huh.
I mean, this is why Freddy can't die either, right? They've killed him off in multiple films, and he keeps coming back. Even in Freddy vs. Jason, his head got lobbed off, and he gives a little wink at the end, indicating that he didn't die.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, in Hellraiser 2, spoilers, Pinhead does die.
Oh.
Yeah, there's they bring in this doctor, Dr. Chenard. He wants to go into the puzzle. He's been wanting to do this. He's obsessed with the puzzle box.
Okay.
And so he becomes a Cenobite.
Oh.
And he becomes super OP, kills all the Cenobites and Pinhead pretty easily.
Wow.
So it depends on
on
Leviathan. So Leviathan's like, I deem you so much more
like
evil and powerful.
for Juggernaut
Yeah,
kind of
pretty
thing?
much, dude.
Interesting.
So say Freddy, Jason get in there, they're like, so the Leviathan be like, man, you're just a weirdo cop.
Thing.
Yeah, these guys are out here doing some damage. Let's make one of these guys the head
That would be
Cenobite.
cool.
So I could see them maybe wanting to tear apart Pinhead.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Depends on who's just evil. Who's gonna be the most evil,
So your favorite then, Eric, is obviously Pinhead.
Sure.
You're kind of landing on Voorhees as your favorite.
Yeah.
And I gotta agree with you. Voorhees, I don't know, something about him, just that big, the kind of the shark eyes thing from Michael Myers, but the hockey mask is much more interesting.
The weird thing about it is, like, he's sort of like, there's two parts to him, right? He is evil, but there's also an innocence about him that gets overlooked because he's mangling people, right?
Sure.
But he just wants to live in Camp Crystal Lake and be left alone. If people would just like not
stop going there and messing around and making out.
Yeah.
Right. And again, he doesn't kill children, and that was proven.
Interesting.
Like, he doesn't do that. So there's like more to him than just being a killing machine.
For sure.
Whereas, I'll have to even give a shout out to Michael Myers, because he didn't necessarily kill children either. At least in the Danny McBride reboot, there was this one scene where this baby is crying, and like my heart almost stopped. Because he's like walking, he has like a knife in his hand, he's walking towards the crib, and he stops, and he walks out, and I'm like, oh my god, I have to walk out of this film, because I can't handle children being murdered.
Yeah,
you're taking it there.
Oh my gosh. Well, kids, that's our show for today. I want to thank you guys for listening. If you like what we're doing, please hit the subscribe button, give us a like, leave a comment. Who should be on this list? On this big list of horror villains? Are there any one-offs, any series that you think that we left off? We're going to be talking a lot about horror stuff this month, mostly because I'm not into it, and I want to be because a lot of people are. I want to know what you guys know, and you guys, both of you guys, knew way more than I thought you did. So this was very educational for me. Check us out on Instagram at REC Podcast. Leave us a comment. Shoot us a DM if you want to talk more about horror stuff. We've got some other shows coming down the pike. Eric, what did you learn today?
Man, I felt really bad for Freddy's mom.
Yeah, you didn't know that, did you?
No.
Oh, man. Well, it's good that Dave brought us. Dave, did you learn anything interesting on today's show?
Yeah, that Rob Zombie is terrible, and that kids, if you really want to see a bad movie, watch Leprechaun.
There you go. If Rob Zombie's so bad, I wish he was Freddy's mom.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Well, I learned that I actually saw all of the first movies, and I've only seen a couple of the sequels, so I kind of want to go and check out some other things, especially the Hellraiser, since you said 2 is
great.
Is
I'll bring it by next time, man. Yep.
Nice. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I have been your host, Roman Chavez.
Oh, still Eric Icarus.
And Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today, and we'll probably see you again this month. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.